The 100 Movies I've Missed project was a project that I think was created by Chris from Filmstock last year, where you go through the entire year and you watch 100 movies that you've, well, missed or at least haven't seen, that are probably more important, more bigger movies, I'd say, or at least more famous, or ones that I feel that are important that weirdly I just haven't seen. Seeing him and a few others last year do it, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try this out this year, give myself an excuse to watch a lot of different movies that I haven't seen before just for the first time, and I'm actually gonna react to a lot of them. And some of the movies that I'm gonna talk about today, I've reacted to and talked about on this channel, so you can go, I'll link the videos that I mentioned down below, but I'm gonna update you every single month if I've watched over, I'd say, 4 or 5 movies for the 100 Movies project that month, just to give you updates throughout the year. And then at the end of the year, I'm maybe gonna rank them all, give you my favorites from them. Again, I'm not 100% sure on that yet. I guess we'll just see when we get there. But I started this year off with Airplane. It was the first movie that I watched, and it kicked off the 100 Movies project. I'll also refer to it as that. And it was also the first reaction I did for at least a full movie that was at least posted, because I did one for Child's Play back in October. That didn't work out because of copyright, whatever. But that video kind of blew up for me. It's like 3.5k, and for me that's easily the most views a video of mine has gotten, and it just keeps going. It's nice. Okay, but Airplane was fantastic. It's one of the most famous comedies out there. Like, the line, "I am serious and don't call me Shirley," is one of the most iconic, and for a reason this movie was hilarious. I think it's probably the most so far this year. I mean, we're only like a month and a few days in, that I've laughed at a movie, like easily probably the hardest I've laughed in a long time at a movie, because it just had like a bunch of jokes. And I said that in my, like, after my reaction was done, when I talk about it after, you know, I said it has so many of those jokes where you're like, shit, like, why did I laugh at that? But it's also funny. It's like, it has a very specific sense of humor, and if you have that sense of humor, or if you like it, then you'll love the movie. And I really did. It had a few things, some scenes ran on too long, but I really loved Airplane. And then the next day I went and watched Ted, and Ted, yeah, I don't know how I haven't seen it. I love Mark Wahlberg. Seth MacFarlane, not Seth Rogen, Seth MacFarlane is amazing. His comedy is just unbeatable. And this was always like the forbidden movie, I'd say, in my house, because my mom always talked about how she doesn't like the comedy in it, or how it's too vulgar, all that. Like, I don't know if she hates the movie, but she's always like, oh my god, it's so terrible, there's all this, there's all that. And I'm like, come on, we've watched The Wolf of Wall Street, okay? And going into it, you know, I expected it to be hilarious, and it really was. I adored Ted. I mean, come on, I'm a teenage boy. Of course I'm gonna love Ted. Any teenager can enjoy it, not just teenage boys. But it also surprised me too, because there was some heart to the movie. It also had a sweet story of friendship with Mark Wahlberg and Ted. Like, I mean, yeah, it's bare, and there's some stuff in it that, like, is pretty weird, but it's really funny. I always knew the Thunder Buddy song, and I still love it. I really love this movie. It's gotta be one of my favorite comedies of the last decade. I still haven't seen the second one. I'm gonna probably watch that this month, but trust me, if you like comedies like this, that's like vulgar, just hilarious comedies, I highly recommend Ted, and you've probably already seen it because almost everyone has. And then I watched another movie I reacted to, and that was Office Space. And Office Space has been known as one of the funniest movies from the 90s, and it was really funny. I don't think it's one of my favorite comedies, not at all. Probably, maybe not even one of the funniest from the 90s. It had a ton of stuff I liked, a few things that I was like, okay, but the dry humor and the sarcastic humor really tied it together, and they put the characters in such fun situations where sometimes the idea of a scene kind of was better than the actual execution. But I've also heard that this really improves on rewatch, and maybe it's that I haven't worked at an office job or in an office like that, but it had a bunch of super likable characters, some insanely laugh out loud moments. There's just so much in this movie that I really enjoyed. Again, you can check out my reaction to it. I really liked it. Definitely didn't love it by any means, but I did really like Office Space. And then, of course, keeping up the reactions, I reacted to and actually watched, of course, Edge of Tomorrow. And this movie is so underrated. I don't know why nobody talks about it. It's one of Tom Cruise's best movies, and I'm a massive Tom Cruise fan. I loved it so much. Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt were so interesting here, and it's really cool to see Tom Cruise as a coward, because, you know, normally he's like big, tough, macho man, which I have no problem with. Trust me, I love Tom Cruise, and seeing him vulnerable here was really interesting, and I loved his chemistry with Emily Blunt, and the action, blew me away. I mean, you can watch the reaction. I watched it on my TV there, which it's not the biggest TV. It's quite a small TV, but still, even watching it on there, I was like, wow. And the premise is so cool. The Groundhog Day premise and how it keeps going over and over again. And the ending, I mean, the ending gets pretty dark, and because I had so many lights on to show me, I was like, what's happening? What's happening? But trust me, if you love action or sci-fi, you have to check this out. It's also called Edge of Tomorrow, Not Live, Die, Repeat, okay? Smokey and the Bandit was really fun. I watched it for my friend's Emma's birthday, just because, like, not with her or anything, but just here, because I was like, hey, it's on my 100 movies project, and it was her birthday, so I was like, boom, make a video. It all worked out. I made a movie night for that, and my experience with watching the movie really annoyed me because the Wi-Fi cut out, and oh my god, website, like, it was terrible. But the movie was also really, really good. I really enjoyed seeing Burt Reynolds. You know, I've seen him in Boogie Nights, which I adore. He was phenomenal in Boogie Nights, but seeing him here as like the king of cool, or like the swagger type personality while riding one of the coolest cars out there was awesome. That whole bridge jump sequence is iconic as hell for a reason. It had some amazing, you know, comedic moments here. It is super cheesy and at times really dated, but overall it was really good, surprisingly. And finally, I watched Minority Report, which is easily the best movie I've watched for the first time in 2020. Holy shit, this movie is fantastic. It's a Spielberg and Tom Cruise movie. Obviously, I loved Edge of Tomorrow, but Minority Report is just on this whole other level. The premise alone will sell almost anyone on this movie, and the look of it, where like they bleached the negatives for the like the film print or whatever, like, yeah, I don't know too much about that, so I'm not going to go too much into that, but just to give it this unique, you know, where the whites really pop, it has this different kind of futuristic look to it. It makes it amazing, and Steven Spielberg's direction, along with Tom Cruise, who is fantastic in the movie, like a lot better than like just classic action star starring an action sci-fi movie, because he really goes to some places here with the relationship, the whole storyline with his son and his wife and everything. Like, it really, this movie is so special. No one talks about it. It's also super underrated. It's probably the most underrated Spielberg movie that I've seen. I mean, Catch Me If You Can is pretty underrated too. Yes, I know a lot of people have seen it, but nobody really talks about it, and I never hear people talking about Minority Report. It honestly is the best movie I watched in January, and normally this video would come at like the end of January or like the very first day in February. I just had other videos planned, so that's why it's coming out a few days later. And there was another movie that I watched, but I'll talk about that in the next video, but I also have a reaction of it, Fargo. But for Minority Report, I can recommend this to anyone who loves action sci-fi. It's like 2.5 hours, does not feel that long at all. It's an amazing movie. It has some pretty like kind of creepy stuff in it too. Amazing mix. I loved it. And those are the movies that I kicked off the 100 Movies I Missed project with. Yep, I said that right. It's been really fun so far, and I'm going to go through the entire year, try to watch 100 movies. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think about it, it kind of is, but I'm really excited. I feel like I'll complete it by the end of the year. And of course, Chris, if you're watching, thank you for starting this. It's a great idea, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.